Hi, I'll show you the incredible power of the REST API on the DellEMC switches. So I have two unconfigured switches. We have enabled the REST API. That's basically what I've done, and configured a management IP address. Nothing is configured on the switches, and you can see that as well via the web server GUI. Nothing is configured on the two switches, no tagged ports, no untagged ports. So let's take a look on the configuration files I'll be using in the demo, or quickly take a look at the final configuration. This is what it should look like. I'll configure VLANs, IP addresses, and switch ports. So let's see first on the switch ports. I'll configure switch ports as hybrid ports with the untagged VLAN and tagged VLANs on the ports. On switch 249 and 250, ports 1 to 8, and also port 15. So when I've done that, I'll add the VLANs to the two switches. When that is done, we'll add ports to the VLANs. We'll add them as tag ports to the switches. And last but not least, or second to last, we'll configure the IP addresses. Let's go and do that as quickly as possible. So how is this done? Yeah, you just press a button, configure ports. So we have sent the commands to the switches, and it has been translated to REST API calls with these strings, and the ports are configured. We can take a look at the troubleshoot tab. We look for the VLANs, and we have configured the ports as untagged ports on both switches. So let's add the VLANs to the switches as well. The VLANs have now been added. Let's take a look if that's true. We search for the VLANs, and yes, we have VLAN 10 to 13 added as well. As you can see, no tagged or untagged ports in those VLANs yet, but we'll configure the ports in the VLANs. Takes a little bit longer, and we have added the ports to the VLANs. The configurations, command file, and the strings sent to the switch. So we'll see if that's true. And yes, it is true. We have added the ports, the tagged ports to the VLANs. Note this on VLAN 10. We only have port 15 in VLAN 10. We'll do some more configuration later. So you saw that I configured the IP interfaces. Very, very easy. And let's see if we have the IP interfaces configured. Yes, we have the IP interfaces configured. So we should now be able to ping from 2 to 1 in VLAN 10. So we go into B switch, ping 10, 10, 10, 1. And the ping is working. So that's that. And now let's see. We want to add ports to VLAN 10. As you saw on VLAN 10, we only have one port. And I'm using the configuration files to do that. And with a little bit different look this time, so you can see another way to do it. Now I specify the switches where I want to send the commands, and I can group any group of switches. It can be all switches, spine switches, leaf switches, etc. And I can have different files, of course. And I only have the commands in the second file. So, as you see, port 1 to 8 will be added for VLAN 10. So, we take the spine switch file and we take the VLAN port command file that I just showed you, and I'll send the commands. And we see that the commands have been executed, and of course you don't trust me, so you want me to take a look on VLAN 10, and you now see that in addition to port 15, port 1 to 8 have been configured. Now over to some troubleshooting. Let's say that I'm looking for this MAC address. Somebody has called me and said, I have a problem with the MAC address. I search for the MAC address and I notice that it's only seen on the distribution and the access switch or leaf switches, but I don't see it on the spine switch. That's a little bit puzzling because the traffic, this MAC address should be seen on the spine switch as well. So just to show you, I know that the spine switch, the leaf switch that I showed you is connected on port 13 to spine switch 250. Can take a look. We'll search for port 13 and we see that port 13 has not been configured as untagged on the switch. So let's see. Let's add port 13 as untagged. And now we can take a look. We search for that MAC address, and this time we'll just search on the spine switches. And yes, we do see the MAC address now. And we can also just confirm that port 13 has been configured. And it has been configured. So I've shown you a little bit of troubleshooting, I've shown you a little bit of automation, and I've not used a CLI other than to prove that it is working with the pings. I hope you found it interesting and also see the power in automation and building web server applications to control your network. Thanks a lot.